games go this season, it's got a bit of a pivotal look to it, this one, hasn't it?
Oh, it's a huge game. There's no disputing that. Now they become, teams are in single figures, and if you can win a game against somebody in the bottom half of the division, then of course we all know what that can do for you. So, a big game for both clubs, and and if we can win it, it would set us very nicely for the most pivotal couple of weeks. I think we've got back-to-back away games after this one in quick succession. So if we can get off and running to a good start tomorrow, it'll be terrific.
You want to do it with your best possible squad. That isn't going to be possible because of George Boyd's suspension. What was your view on that?
Well, we're all totally, absolutely disappointed for George to start with. And anybody who knows George, and I've had the privilege now to manage him for the best part of a year, know for a fact that he would never ever spit at anybody deliberately. No chance. It's not in his makeup. He's horrified with the charge, George is, genuinely horrified. But the way the rules are, and the way they've done it, and I can see it on the television, and you can see cameras, that there's a bit of saliva came out of his mouth. That's not deliberately spitting at somebody. He's shouting at him, and it's come out of his mouth. And I'm 100% behind him, because I know that's the truth. The problem is we can't go down and see anybody. We can't be represented on this commission. We don't know who sat it, who took it. We had 3 referees on Monday morning saying that, in their view, he deliberately spat at him. And we're just totally disappointed that the whole system, for me, again, needs looked at. Joe Hart, rightly so, nothing against him. I've got nothing against Joe Hart, but how does he get away unpunished if you're going to do George Boyd? And as I said, for George himself, he feels that strongly about it. If there was legal action to take, you take it, because it's accusing of something which not in his makeup at all. Now, I've managed certain players where you would say, okay, he's capable of it. Certainly not George Boyd.
So is it an overreaction, or what is it?
Well, he's called him I can't say it on the television of what he's called. We got witnesses from, the deaf who can lip read. We all understand what he's saying and what he's calling Joe Hart at the time. Joe Hart, last Saturday, comes out and says that he didn't deliberately spat at him. You know if somebody spits at you, and he's only a foot away. So we did all we could, but as soon as they charged him, I think we all understand that they're not going to change it. And I don't know why this so-called committee, sits. We don't know who's on it. We're not certainly represented. And for me, we don't get a fair hearing of it, because I'll reiterate again, George Boyd has not got that in his locker to deliberately spit at somebody, and that's what he's been accused of and found guilty of, and quite rightly so. We're aggrieved by it, but no more so than George, who is deeply upset about the whole situation.
So the system's
the system needs to be certainly looked at. How can you? It's like a kangaroo court sitting. We don't know who's on it. Who makes the decision? Who's accountable for it? We just get a decision that the FA are charging us by 3 referees who looked at it. And of course, they're going to find them. They're not going to go against the other 3, are they? So we feel rightly aggrieved of the whole situation. And not just for George, but we've lost him, you're right, for 3 hugely important games over something which I'm adamant, though George Boyd is not capable of spitting at anybody deliberately. It might have been an accident. We've all seen that, but we showed pictures of Joe Hart shouting and bawling at him, and the saliva coming out everywhere. So, unfortunately, he's been a victim by television and trial by cameras and all the rest of it. But I'll 100% defend him, because I know for a fact he wouldn't do it.
Now you've got to put all that behind you, though, haven't you? Because
well, it's done. We have to accept it. We're outraged yesterday when it comes through, because all the plans of all week were just waiting while we think, hang on a minute, I was going to start George Boyd. He's been terrific in the last 2 games he's come on, so he'd have been starting tomorrow. So everything's been put back on hold since we've had to wait for the decision of, is he going to play or not?
And the wins, they've been hard to come by, haven't they, in the last few weeks? So
yeah.
All hands to the pump on it.
It is. I mean, we're under no illusion of how difficult it is. Then again, there's 10, 11 teams exactly the same. Usually, in my experience with the Premier League, there's usually 3 divisions in it. There's the top, there's the middle and the bottom. But unfortunately this year, there's 2 or 3 teams who are, obviously safe, and there's 10, 11 teams still all in it. When you're separated by 3-4 points with 8 games to go, 5-6 points, wherever it is, then everybody from number 10 downwards is still in it.
I was at West Brom's game last weekend. Poor first half, but
yeah, they've got a result.
Second half,
They've got a result, and it's not about now, playing attractive football and this, that, and the other. It's about results. We need to go and win a couple. And I've said since day one we need to win 10. I'm not going to change on that. If we can get, down to 1 after tomorrow with 8 to play, puts us in a really, really strong position where we would hope that we can obviously keep our place in this Premier League.
And then a manager who appeared to be under pressure last week, he hadn't won a game. Now he has won a game, and that
the pressure's off.
Their dynamic, it?
It's amazing what the result does for everybody. And sometimes when you don't get one, you can go 6, 7, 8 weeks. We've seen great teams in the Premier League go 6, 7 games. So we all know in the bottom half of the division how difficult it is. Everybody's got good players. Everybody's well organised. Everybody's got good managers, good coaches. That's why it is. The Barclays Premier League is, for me, without doubt, the best league because of the competition from top to bottom is quite unique.
Premier League is a tough place to come and manage, but if you've never managed in this league before, never managed in this country, as Pepe Mel has, did he have a tough job coming in?
Well, I think anybody, when you're going to change countries, I think, it's like an Englishman going to work in Spain, you would find it difficult, no matter what league you're in. The one thing you can't deny with Pepe Mel, he's been around the block a bit. He's got a pedigree where he's managed in Spain and managed successfully in Spain. But anybody coming to a strange country, I would suggest, would find it difficult. So you've got to give the guy time. He's not going to just change it round in 7, 8 weeks, where everybody thinks you can do these days. You've got to, back managers, back head coaches to give them time, put their own philosophy on it, give them time to bring their ways into it. And I think he'll obviously be delighted that he's got his first win last week.
He said yesterday during the press conference that at half-time he has to leave it to his assistants because the half-time whistle would have blown and he'd be still there talking to the players. How difficult is
well, that must be difficult. It's hard enough speaking in English sometimes. But I think you have to admire him. He didn't speak English until 4 months ago. He's only been here 4 months. And then he's having, he's holding press conferences and talking in front of cameras in English, which you only have to admire the guy that he's trying his best. And as I've said, with all these people, when you're bringing in, especially a foreign coach, and you rightly say to come into the Premier League, no matter who you are, it's obviously a difficult job. We see Arsène Wenger taking his 1,000th game tomorrow, which is quite remarkable. And if you asked him in 1996 when he came in, was he daunted by it? I'm sure he was. But how wonderful a manager he's proved to be.
I've got to ask you something on Wenger at the end, if that's okay. But just one more on West Brom. And did you encounter Mel earlier in the season, or at the start over the summer? Did you have a pre-season friendly against them when Betis came here? Or was that last season?
Yeah, it was in the start of this season, but I think I left after half an hour. I went to watch a game abroad. I think we went to watch Sagbo actually. So I didn't really get to talk to him or see him. I think we won the game 3-0, so a bit of that tomorrow would be very, very nice.
And just finally from me, Arsène Wenger does celebrate his 1,000th game tomorrow at Stamford Bridge. You've been in the game a while, you saw him arrive. What has he brought to this country, do you think? Has he changed the way?
Well, he's got us English managers. He's given us all a hard job because I think he broke the ice, really. He was one of the first to come over here and be the success he was. And I think a lot of people jumped on the bandwagon thinking, can we find the new Arsène Wenger? So it's to a detriment of the British English managers, if you like, because he's been that successful. The fella is just, he has his critics. I don't know how anybody can criticise him. His teams, the way they play, the way the transfer market, the success they've had, the building of the stadium. They've never had maybe the money that the big clubs, what usually the big clubs have been able to outspend them. And I think what he's brought to English football, you have to say, he's been marvellous. I mean, he's sort of created two traits. His first time, I was just talking to Stephen Clements there, our reserve team manager. He was saying when he came in, and to start with, Petite, Vieira, big, strong, powerful. Now it seems to have changed to go and play the Arsenal way. But he's built teams built teams, and have nothing but the highest respect. I think anybody who's managed 1,000 games for a club like Arsenal deserves a hell of a pat on the back and all the plaudits that go his way.
And being at Old Trafford when he came in, Manchester United kind of cutting edge of a lot of things, but did things change at Old Trafford perhaps?
Well, I was just leaving when Wenger first started Arsenal, but there was always fierce rivalry, and of course, I mean, listen, to take on Sir Alex, the one person who took him on head to head repeatedly was him. It was Arsène Wenger. So to do that over 16, 17 years, he was always going head to head with him, which I'm sure Sir Alex enjoyed the rivalry. Certainly he was bitter at times, but as it's proved, they've got a hugest respect for each other, because when you get to their level, there's only a few of them people around, and he's certainly up there with the best there's ever been. Has to be.
Steve, you said last Friday that you thought that 2 wins would do it. After the results since then, do you still think 2 wins? Is that what you need?
I'm not going to change. I'm not going to change. I didn't say how many draws we need, but no, I think you'd be very, very unlucky if you go down with 10 wins under your belt, because you expected to pick up a few draws along the way, and whether 36 points would be enough, I'm not saying that's enough, but you'd hopefully pick up a few results on the way, you know, and 36, 37, 38 points usually is enough to keep you in the league. And with so many teams playing each other, it could be a low total. It could be separated by goal difference. You know, it could be, because when you look and analyse the fixtures, everybody's got to play each other with, 8, 9 games to go, so all to play for.
Steve, you mentioned you were thinking of starting with George this weekend. How is your squad shaping up for tomorrow's match?
Well, we're exactly the same. I mean, the squad's not the biggest. We know the 18 who will be selected from. The 2-3 injured lads we've got, and George adds to that, of course. So, we've had to leave people like Stephen Quinn last week. He comes straight into the equation, of course. And we have to deal with, obviously, the loss of George, because, as I said, all week was the impact he played last week and the week before was he deserved a starting place. So he'll be disappointed me for to hear that, and probably made a worse week for him already.
A lot of fans are talking about Shane Long as well, obviously facing his former club for the first time as well. I suppose, from the training, seeing him on the training ground, is that a game he's looking forward to?
Well, it's always one of I've always felt when you're playing against a former club, or you're managing against a former club, it's a bit of a surreal thing, especially when you've just first left. They were your teammates, and we did play for them for years. Make no mistake, he'd want to do well. He'd want to score and score the winning goal. He'd be going to bed tonight, I'm sure, thinking something like that. Can it happen? Let's hope for us it does. But Shane Long's got nothing to prove to West Brom over the years. He's been a terrific player for them and a terrific signing for them.
Does it almost give him a point to prove though as well, the fact that they let him go in January?
Well, for whatever reason they've let him go, I think obviously it was a contract issue, that they thought, and then they bought Sessegnon and Anachibi, so, they said, well, maybe he was surplus, but whatever's gone, I'm just delighted that we managed to get him here. We chased him for a long time, and as we've seen, he's give the whole place, him and Jelavic, a little bit of a lift at the right time. Let's hope that continues.
Hey Steve, just on Shane Long, he was criticised recently in international duty for missing chances. Do you expect him to
Every striker misses a chance. No matter who you are, the one thing about Shane was he'll keep getting up and keep getting in there, and that's the key to it. You must make sure that you don't lose your confidence on it. I've seen the game, he scored a great first goal, made the goal out of nothing for himself. Another day he could have had a hat-trick, but that's what happens in top-line football, But I can only say for us and what he's played for us in the last half a dozen games, he's given us something which we needed, which was a bit of pace in behind. And of course, his attitude to work for the team is second to none.